Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into the What's New Opus 4.8 update, specifically breaking down the May 28th, 2026 release of Anthropic's Claude Opus 4.8. If you're a builder, an engineer, or really anyone looking to get the absolute most out of the newest AI models, you're exactly where you need to be. We're going to cover the essential developer upgrades, the massive leaps in efficiency, and the brand new workflow tools. And we're going to do it without getting bogged down in the fluff. So let's just get right into it. Okay, let's dive into this highly structured agenda. First, we'll briefly meet Opus 4.8. Then, we'll check out the massive context and output upgrades, smarter reasoning, some really nice developer quality of life improvements, Claude code and tools, and finally, migrations and critical limits. I promise you'll get exactly what you need to know. Section 1. Meet Claude Opus 4.8, Anthropic's newest. So, as of this launch, Opus 4.8 is officially Anthropic's most capable model to date. Now, for those of you who've been building on the platform for a while, don't worry. The familiar tools and features you already know from Opus 4.7, they're still here. But the real story of Opus 4.8, it's not about what stayed the same. It is all about the massive core upgrades to context size, reasoning efficiency, and developer workflows. It's the same foundation you're used to, just vastly more powerful. Section 2. Context and output. Jaw-dropping power. All right, prepare yourselves, because the sheer raw power of this new model is genuinely incredible. 1 million context tokens. And that is enabled by default. I mean, just pause and really think about that for a second. That is the default working memory capacity of Opus 4.8. It means during a single conversation or a single complex task, the model can hold an absolutely staggering amount of text. To put that into perspective, it's literally like holding several massive textbooks in its head at the exact same time. We're talking entire code bases, huge document libraries, gigantic financial data sets, all just sitting there, available for Claude to reference instantly in one go. And then there's the other side of that coin, 128,000 max output tokens. That's the incredible new upper limit on what Claude can actually generate in a single response. So you aren't just feeding it a million tokens, you can literally ask it to write, generate, or code up to 128,000 tokens right back to you without it even breaking a sweat. The scale of the tasks you can execute in just one single prompt just grew exponentially. Section 3. Smarter reasoning. Efficiency upgrades. Let's transition from raw power to, well, smart power, right? Because how the model optimizes its compute is just as impressive as its size. Opus 4.8 introduces something called adaptive thinking. And what's really interesting here is how it completely changes the game for efficiency. It's basically a process where the model dynamically decides to activate its extended reasoning only when the current conversational turn actually requires it. It stops wasting compute, which means you get way fewer unnecessary thinking tokens chewed up when you're just asking simpler questions. Let's directly contrast the two so you can see exactly how they solved this. On Opus 4.7, that extended reasoning process could fire off even when it totally wasn't necessary, which led to wasted tokens and, higher costs for you. Anthropic directly tackled this developer pain point with 4.8. Now, reasoning activates strictly when needed. It is a brilliant pivot to highly efficient compute. Your API budgets are going to stretch so much further for the exact same amount of work. Speaking of effort, here's a quick operational change you really need to be aware of. The effort parameter now defaults to high everywhere. We're talking the Messages API, Claude Code, literally all surfaces. Just expect this as the new default setting so you aren't caught off guard when you're deploying your apps. Section 4. Quality of life. Developer Toolkit. Now, these toolkit upgrades speak directly to the developers out there building long-running sessions and complex apps. This first update, an absolute massive time and money saver. Previously, your system messages had to sit rigidly at the very top of your prompt, right? Not anymore. With Opus 4.8, you can start your conversation and then inject a system message literally anywhere within the messages array. This means you can update your system instructions mid-session while still preserving your prompt cache hits. You're no longer paying the heavy compute cost of reprocessing your entire prompt just because you needed to tweak a tiny instruction halfway through a task. And the best part? No beta header required. It is ready to go right now. And this brilliantly illustrates a highly requested fix for refusal categories. When Opus 4.8 declines a request, the Messages API now returns a specific refusal category nestled right inside the stop details. This is huge because it gives your applications the exact payload data needed to handle different types of declines intelligently. Instead of just treating all refusals like a generic error, you can now build specific routing logic based on exactly why the model declined the prompt. It's so much cleaner. We're also seeing a fantastic upgrade to prompt caching. The minimum prompt length required to actually qualify for caching has dropped to just 1,024 tokens on Opus 4.8. By dropping this threshold way down from where it sat on 4.7, Anthropic is making powerful, cost-saving caching accessible for a much wider range of everyday developer use cases. It's just a huge win across the board. Section 5, Claude Code and Tools. Wider ecosystem. Let's broaden our scope for a minute and look at how Opus 4.8 integrates with the wider Anthropic tool ecosystem. Opus 4.8 officially expands its support to encompass several really powerful tools. This generation now fully supports task budgets, the super useful advisor tool, and computer use. Plus, fast mode for Opus 4.8 is actually available now, though currently it's just sitting as a research preview exclusively on the API. And alongside the API, the Claude Code developer environment is evolving rapidly. Auto mode for long-running tasks has now been expanded to way more users. If you're a Max Plan user, you're going to default to fast mode when using Opus 4.8 inside Claude Code. And maybe the most exciting part, workflows, which is this brand new way to define and run multi-step agentic plans. Those are now available as a research preview inside Claude Code. The whole ecosystem is just becoming intensely powerful for agentic builds. Section 6, Critical Limits. Crucial Migrations. Okay, I want to execute a bit of a tonal shift here to act as a speed bump. Please pay very close attention to these breaking changes before you push anything to production. So the crucial point is that while Opus 4.8 is incredibly powerful, it has strict guardrails regarding parameters. Builders, you absolutely need to check your code bases for these specific rules right now. Here are your critical warnings. First, and this is consistent with the behavior introduced in 4.7, if you set the temperature, top_P or top_K to non-default values on Opus 4.8, the API will just immediately kick back a 400 error. Check your migration guides and stick strictly to the defaults, unless you enjoy debugging in production. Second, there's a really important deprecation. Fast mode for Claude Opus 4.6 is officially deprecated. It's going to be removed entirely in about 30 days. You need to migrate your fast mode settings over to Opus 4.8 or 4.7 immediately to avoid your apps breaking. Which brings us to the end of our explainer with one big provocative question. How are you going to leverage a 1 million context window in your next build? I mean, the raw power, combined with adaptive thinking and those beautiful mid-conversation system messages, it unlocks architectures we couldn't even dream of a year ago. If you want to dive even deeper, I highly recommend checking out the full plain English guide at claudemaster.net. It is a brilliant independent manual for people who build with Claude every single day. Thank you so much for joining me to explore the edges of what's possible here. Now, go out there and build something incredible.